Europe's migration crisis peaked in the mid-2010s, leaving nations scrambling to manage the overwhelming influx of asylum seekers. Hungary, under the leadership of Prime Minister Viktor Orbán, became a symbol of hardline migration policies. One of its most controversial measures was the detention of migrants in shipping containers, a strategy that drew both praise and condemnation. This approach aimed to address Hungary's immigration challenges, but came with significant moral and legal implications. In 2015, Europe faced a seismic migration wave. Wars in Syria, Iraq, and Afghanistan, alongside economic instability in parts of Africa, forced millions to flee their homes. Hungary became a key transit point for migrants attempting to reach wealthier nations like Germany and Sweden. By the end of 2015, the country recorded over 411,000 irregular crossings on its southern border. The strain on Hungary's resources and infrastructure was palpable, and the government's patience wore thin. Viktor Orbán framed the crisis as not just a logistical challenge, but a threat to Hungary's cultural and economic fabric. "We must protect our borders," he declared, not only to safeguard Hungary, but to defend the entirety of Europe. Hungary's initial response was the construction of razor-wire fences along its southern borders with Serbia and Croatia. The fences, equipped with surveillance systems and patrols, were designed to stop migrants from entering Hungary illegally. By March 2017, Hungary implemented a policy mandating that all asylum seekers, including families and minors over 14, be detained in transit zones composed of shipping containers while their cases were processed. These container camps, located along the razor-wire border fences, became a symbol of Hungary's no-nonsense migration stance. Migrants were confined to the camps, unable to leave until their asylum applications were reviewed. "We cannot risk our citizens' safety," government officials argued, pointing to incidents of crime and terrorism linked to migration in other European nations. Each shipping container was outfitted with basic amenities, including beds and sanitary facilities. Detainees received regular meals and had access to communication tools and religious spaces. Despite these provisions, international human rights organizations criticized the facilities for their restrictive nature and the psychological impact on detainees. Viktor Orbán's hardline stance on migration wasn't just about fences and containers, as it was a cornerstone of his broader political strategy. He mentioned that migration is an existential threat to Hungary's sovereignty and cultural identity, warning of an invasion that could overwhelm Europe's Christian values. This rhetoric resonated with many Hungarians, particularly in rural areas where fears of cultural displacement were amplified by government-backed media campaigns. Orbán's approach also drew support from other leaders in Europe. Poland, the Czech Republic, and Slovakia expressed solidarity with Hungary, refusing EU quotas for relocating migrants. Orbán's defiance of Brussels' migration policies turned him into a hero for Eurosceptics, cementing his image as a defender of national sovereignty. However, not everyone was on board with Hungary's methods. Human rights organizations condemned the container camps, calling them a violation of international law. Amnesty International described the policy as flagrant and inhumane, emphasizing that it deprived migrants of dignity and freedom. The United Nations Refugee Agency expressed deep concern, urging Hungary to reconsider its policies. The European Union took a stronger stance. In 2020, the European Court of Justice ruled that Hungary's asylum practices violated EU laws. The ruling forced Hungary to shut down the transit zones, though the government continued to resist broader EU migration reforms. Hungary's defiance came at a cost when they were faced with significant fines and lost EU funding over its non-compliance. One question looms large. Did Hungary's hardline policies solve its migration crisis? The answer depends on who you ask. On one hand, the numbers speak for themselves. By 2018, the number of asylum applications in Hungary had plummeted to fewer than 700, a dramatic drop from the tens of thousands recorded in 2015. The razor-wire fences and transit zones effectively closed Hungary's borders to irregular migration, fulfilling Orbán's promise to protect Hungary. On the other hand, critics argue that Hungary's policies didn't address the root causes of migration. Instead, they pushed the burden onto neighboring countries, creating bottlenecks along alternative routes. Viktor Orbán's stance has undoubtedly influenced other European leaders. For example, Poland has adopted a similar rhetoric a long time ago, emphasizing border security and national identity. At the same time, countries like Germany and Sweden continue to advocate for more inclusive policies. So what do you think about Hungary's approach? Let us know in the comments below.